Following the road northeast from New Vegas, we come upon a sign that says, "Danger! Keep out!" On the sign in red spray paint is the word boomers. What's a boomers? As we continue along, we see a man in the street casually smoking a cigarette.
Whoa there, pal. You better slow down, or you'll get blown up like the rest of the idiots who thought they'd scavenge in boomer territory. Oh, lordy, lordy. You haven't heard of the boomers? What rock have you been living under? They're a bunch of artillery-slinging, grenade-lobbing odd jobs camping out in Nellis. Wander into their territory and you're as good as mincemeat.
Well, if they're so dangerous, how do we get past?
There is a way, and I'll tell you. For a little wager. Well, I know the secret to get past. If you give me the caps, I'll tell you. If you make it back alive, I'll double your money.
I see, so he'll tell us the secret how to get past the artillery fire if we pay him 300 caps. Now, we do have the option to barter him down to 200, but this is a silly option. Sure, we pay less now, but are we expecting to die? The only way we lose this wager is if we die, in which case money wouldn't mean much to us anyway. So it's smarter to just pay the 300 caps. If we come back alive, which we will, we get double that, which is 600.
Okay, here you go. That page has the details, but it's all in the timing as you move from building to building. I'll be here watching, so I'll know if you've made it to the gate or not. Remember, there's 600 caps in it if you make it.
Okay, so he gave us a note with the secret on how to enter the Nellis Air Force Base, which is occupied by a strange group called the Boomers. Now, the note he gave us gives us two options. The first is to sneak through the underground train tunnel just south of the Nellis Air Force Base. When we find it, we discover that it has been guarded by all sorts of death claws. Young death claws, adult death claws. We have to clear all of these before we can enter the train tunnel. After entering the train tunnel, we discover that the Boomers have booby-trapped it. And not just a few landmines here and there, all over the place, and they're really hard to see. I walked away from this with many crippled limbs. To make matters worse, it is infested with feral ghouls. Now, you can use the ghouls to your advantage. If you shoot at a few of them far away, you can lure them to yourself, and they'll inevitably trigger the mines while running to you. In this way, you can clear out most of them, sparing your limbs the damage. Now, this is going to be an impractical option for players earlier in the game because you have to have a lock-picking skill of 100 in order to pick the lock that leads to the train tunnel. We may not have that until much later. Along the way, we find the remains of a wastelander. He's got a fire helmet, a doctor's bag, and 2 Patriots cookbooks. A pretty decent haul. But after all of that, when we leave the train tunnel, we find ourselves smack dab in the middle of the Boomer shelling field. This is the exact same field we would have had to have run through anyway. So going through the tunnel, we didn't save ourselves from the barrage of munitions. I tried to avoid them by hugging the eastern wall, but I failed miserably, ultimately being blasted to hell. So instead, we're going to try the first option. The first option tells us to go north-northwest, hugging the rock wall towards the Air Force Base. When they start shelling, we need to take refuge inside some of the blasted out houses. Now, if you can't get to these houses quick enough, you can get killed. Here I lost a few of my limbs. But if you succeed in getting to one of the houses, you can sit there while the Boomers rain down fire upon you without dying. After a while, there will be a break in the shelling. You can then sneak out and run as quickly as you can to the fence that borders the Nellis Air Force Base. The Boomers won't risk firing on you this close for risk of hurting their own people. Now, we're here for 3 reasons. The first is that we were sent out by the Brotherhood of Steel to search for a missing Brotherhood of Steel recon patrol. They were last seen near the Nellis Air Force Base. The second is that the NCR wants us to negotiate an alliance with the Boomers so that the NCR can count on the Boomers when they inevitably fight Caesar's Legion. And the third is that we need to retrieve a piece of technology, a pulse gun, from Vault 34. And rumor has it that the former residents of Vault 34 now live here at Nellis Air Force Base, calling themselves the Boomers. we'll see if we can gain access to the facility via peaceful means so that we can complete our tasks. At last, we get to the gate, and we are confronted.
Hold it right there. Don't you move. How the hell did you survive that bombardment?
Easy peasy, it's all in the timing.
But I had you zeroed in the whole time. Nobody's that fast. Move a muscle now and I'll blow you to pieces.
We can calm his fears and say that we're not here to cause trouble.
Then just stay where you are. Raquel will be here any second.
I'll take this from here. I'm Raquel, Master-at-Arms for the Nellis homeland. I oversee the security of the Nellis homeland, from the coordination of its defense to the training and fitness of its population. Mother Pearl, our eldest, wishes to speak to you. Mother Pearl has lived at Nellis from the start, and has the wisdom of her age. She said that this day would come, and that any savage to reach our gate should be brought to her. Follow close, and mind your behavior.
The screen then goes black, and we appear inside Pearl's home.
Welcome, child. Took your sweet time getting here, didn't you? I've been waiting a good 5 years for an outsider to come along and visit. Those howitzers of ours aren't just for entertainment, child. Explosive ordnance is what keeps the savages at a distance. Except you. There's something special about you, child, and it was the howitzers that gave you a chance to show it. You have to keep in mind that you're our first contact with the outside world since I was barely a woman. Seclusion has kept us safe, but the world around us is changing. Neon lights in the distance, patrolling robots, soldiers. My youngers think our guns can keep out the world, but I think we need to let it in just a little, or become its victim. You're that little bit of the world, child. Welcome to Nellis. You picked a good time to stop by, for we're swimming in problems. My youngers can tell you all about it. Raquel could use help with the bug problem. Doc Argyle has wounded he's tending to. And Loyal and Jack might be looking for help with some repairs. Or you could just go see Pete at the museum and hear the story of our people. All you have to do there is listen. Come and go as you like, help or don't help, I leave it up to you. But I hope you'll show my youngers that not every outsider needs to be blown up.
Raquel, who escorted us into Pearl's home, takes us aside and tells us our first mission.
Mother Pearl's instructions are clear. You can move freely around Nellis, and artillery spotters have orders not to fire on you. These are extraordinary privileges. Don't abuse them. Long story short, the power failed a few days ago because giant ants have tunneled into the generator room and set up a nest. I led a team down to exterminate them, but there were so many of them. We lost. 2 killed, 3 wounded. Personally, I think it's more than a savage can handle. But if you want to kill those ants and switch the power back on, feel free. The ants must be eating gunpowder from the munitions down there, or something. They exploded when hit by a flamethrower. One of us was using a laser pistol. Same thing. Bullets seem okay, just don't hit the artillery shells. Loyal's been working on some kind of weapon to use against them. Maybe you should check with him.
So Pearl has the idea that we're part of some prophecy, or she knew that we were going to come somehow, and we were going to give her aid. Now, we could completely blow her false assumptions out of the water by killing her here and going on a murderous rampage. Of course, that's always an option, but let's play along for now. If we're going to convince these people to become allies with the NCR, we have to increase our reputation with them, and the best way to do that is to help them out and do their quests. Now, while we were talking with Pearl, we noticed that she was wearing a vault suit. It may be that the rumors are true, that these boomers actually came from Vault 34. We'll explore Pearl's house to see if we can find any evidence of this. And we do. Inside a filing cabinet next to her office terminal, we find Colonel Blackwell's key and inventory transfer order. Now, the only way to get these is to steal them. And we will lose karma, but we need them to complete our quests, so we go ahead and steal them. Inside the inventory order, we see an authority to ship a unique item, the T11836A, codenamed Circuit Breaker, to Vault 34, and to be sealed in its armory. Now, we already know that the pulse gun emits an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, which shuts down machinery, kind of like a circuit breaker. Could this circuit breaker, this T11836A, be the same pulse gun that we need? If so, Colonel Blackwell's key may be just what we need to get it. While we're here looking at the bookshelf, we can find a copy of Duck and Cover. Again, you'll have to steal it to use it, so you may want to skip it if you're concerned with karma. But reading this magazine gives us +3 to explosives permanently. Now, we already have a few tasks at hand. We have to exterminate some bugs, but before we move on, let's talk with some of the other residents of the Nellis Air Force Base. The base is sprawling. It is one of the largest locations in the game, even rivaling the size of the Strip. There's Pearl's Barracks. This is the house that we were just in. Then there's the Nellis Hangars. Once we discover this, it becomes a fast travel location because this airfield is just so big. Next to the hangars is the mess hall and munition storage. This is where we find 2 of the few merchants here at Nellis Air Force Base. And off in the distance, we see the Nellis Array. This is a solar panel array that gives power to the base. Around the grounds, we find a number of little shacks that have been turned into working homes and offices. There's Loyal's house. Loyal is an old-timer. We're going to meet him in a minute. There's the Nellis Boomer Museum. Pearl told us to go here to talk with Pete. There's the Nellis Children's Barracks. The Nellis Medical Station. We need to go here and talk with Argyle. The Men's Barracks. The Women's Barracks. The Workshop. And the schoolhouse. A whole lot to explore, but we must not get sidetracked. We're on 3 different missions, so let's focus. We need to increase our reputation with the boomers, so first, let's talk with Argyle the Doctor. We find him inside his little shack, but he doesn't really want to talk with us.
I know Mother Pearl is letting you wander Nellis as you please, outsider, but I have patients to tend to. Sorry, friend, we really don't have a need for wasteland currency around here. We produce most of what we need.
Okay, then, well, maybe we can help him.
I have 3 patients here who were gravely injured fighting those giant ants in the generator building a few days ago. I've stabilized their wounds, but they're in bad shape. Do you have medical training?
Now, both of the options here have the same result. Argyle will have you take a look at the patients, but my medicine is not very high, so I went with the speech option, which is just a bunch of mumbo-jumbo.
Well, I don't know, actually. I suppose it's possible. You should take a look.
We can then go look at these patients, much like we did at the soldiers in Camp Forlorn Hope. The major difference is we need to pass a pretty high medicine check to cure these guys. Attempting to heal them with a medicine skill that's too low will kill the patient, resulting in a loss of boomer fame, which we are trying to avoid. You have to have 60 or greater to be able to cure all 3 of these patients. Since I don't, and since my skill is so low that no amount of clothing or aid will increase it, I chose to skip this option and move on. Now, you don't have to do every single quest on this Air Force base to become idolized with the boomers. You only need to do a few, but I'll show you all of the different options you have. This was one of them. Let's explore the next one. Before we do, head on over to Loyal's house. Loyal is that old-timer whom we're going to meet in a minute, but inside his house on a table, we find a copy of Dean's Electronics. We have to steal it, meaning we lose karma, but this book permanently gives us 3 to repair. Next, let's go talk with Pete at the Boomer Museum. This is one of the easiest ways to get a whole bunch of boomer fame. All we have to do is listen to him tell us the story of the boomers.
You're the outsider. Mother Pearl sent word that you'd be stopping by. You must be eager to hear the story of our people. Me? I'm Pete, keeper of the story. I know I seem kind of young. I was the apprentice keeper of the story until a couple months ago, but old Keeper Don, well, whiskey and landmines don't go together. So it's up to me. I bet you want to know everything about us. Wonderful. I'm sure you've noticed the mural on the wall of this hut. Shall I tell you what it all means? Imagine you're the first outsider to ever hear our tale.
He then walks over to the mural on the side of the shack and begins to tell us the story.
Ages ago, long before I was born, we lived underground. Everyone had guns, but the overseer wouldn't let us explode anything, not even a hand grenade. We left and wandered the wastes. There were savages with knives. We blew them up with frag mines and grenades, burned them with flamethrowers. It was neat. But there was a downside. For every 43.6 savages we killed, we lost one of our own. We needed a new home. We needed Nellis. Here we have prospered and multiplied. Here our mighty guns destroy any savages who might try to harm us before they can even reach our gates. Well, until... But... Not saying you want to harm us or you're a savage, but anyways. Nellis has revealed many secrets. It has taught us how to fly the bombers once based here, and it has taught us where to find one. And that is our story so far. For this last image is our future. To restore the bomber, to fly the open skies in armored safety, raining high explosive ordnance upon ignorant savages. This is our destiny. I'm pleased that you listened to the entire story. Perhaps there are details you'd like to know more about. Let me know.
Once done, we can talk with Pete to get some details on some of the finer points of his story, and doing so we get even more Boomer fame. We can respond to most of his statements by either encouraging him, which will result in more Boomer fame, or mocking him, in which case we don't get the fame.
Now that you know the story of our people, you must have all sorts of questions. So you know about the vaults? Yes, we lived in one of those. Ours was numbered 34. In our vault, everyone had guns, but the overseer wouldn't let you fire off any of the really fun ones. I guess all the little pops and bangs at the firing ranges just got boring after a while.
Sounds like your people were willing to risk everything for the freedom to bear arms.
And at Nellis, we found it. We haven't detonated any atomic warheads since before I was born, but otherwise, it's do as you will. Several automatic warheads detonate here 100 years ago, leaving the base highly radioactive. The savages of the waste, ignoramuses, all avoided Nellis by habit.
Now, this part of Pete's story is actually unclear. He never tells us why the radiation didn't dissuade the boomers while it dissuades everybody else. Passing a science check, we can get him to admit that the Geiger counters on their Pip-Boys helped them decide to turn this into a settlement. That's because I think the Geiger counters could tell them that the radiation here was no longer at a level that was harmful to human habitation. They could only know this because of the Geiger counters on their Pip-Boys. Everyone else in the wasteland who continue to avoid the Air Force Base only knows that it's radioactive.
That's exactly right. You're very knowledgeable for a Sav, an outsider. Nellis is a completely self-sufficient community. We draw water from Lake Mead, solar arrays provide power, and we grow our own crops. Our self-sufficiency is a point of pride.
We can comment that big howitzers aren't typically found in an Air Force base.
You're right. They weren't here when we discovered Nellis. We found the guns at a huge weapon depot called Area 2, many miles from here. It took many weeks to drag the guns and their ammunition back to Nellis, and it was the last time any of us set foot beyond our homeland.
Now, we don't find Area 2 in the game, we can't explore it, but Area 2 is a real-world place near the real-world Nellis Air Force Base. It's a storage facility about a mile northeast of Nellis Air Force Base, just on the northern outskirts of Las Vegas. During the Cold War, it was a storage place for conventional bombs and unconventional bombs, including nuclear warheads. Over 200 were stored there at one time.
Once we restore power, we learned that some elaborate chairs we've been sleeping in were actually virtual reality simulators. We believe they were used to train combat pilots. We used them extensively. I alone have shot down over 500 Chinese Zion 85 fighters. Before you ask, I'm afraid there's no way you can be allowed to use the simulators. They're for our use only. Sorry.
Now, we've explored this Air Force Base and we didn't actually find any airplanes. What are they using these flight simulators for?
Loyal found a file somewhere on the base, with magazine articles, photographs, a map even. It seems that a bomber, apparently the 29th of its kind, crashed in Lake Mead on July 21st, 1948. Just imagine, that's over 300 years ago. The photograph shows that it was basically intact, and the map tells us exactly where to find it, except we haven't left Nellis in decades.
Ah, so it looks like their plan is to somehow resurrect this bomber so that someday they can fly the friendly skies.
Yes. In fact, that's exactly what Loyal has planned to do. You should go talk to him. I wish everyone were just as interested in our story as you are. Maybe I should act out the battles, or learn how to throw my voice.
And with that, we went from neutral to accepted. A whole lot of fame just by talking with little old Pete. Don't forget to get the Nellis Air Force Base snow globe in the corner here to add to your collection. But we learned a lot. We learned that they did indeed come from Vault 34. They used howitzers to blow things up because they were raised with this love of guns and explosions that they gained from Vault 34. We'll learn more about that when we explore the vault. They're extremely xenophobic, probably because of all of the fighting they had to do upon first leaving Vault 34. They found this Air Force Base deserted because people were afraid of the radiation, but their Geiger counters on their Pip-Boys told them that it was safe for human habitation. They found all the howitzers at Area 2 just north of the Air Force Base and dragged them back to the base, which was the last time they ever left. And at the bottom of Lake Mead is a supposedly intact bomber airplane, which Loyal and some of the other boomers are hoping to someday resurrect so that they can use it for flight, which is why they all use the virtual reality flight simulators here on base. Now, speaking of Loyal, let's go to the hangar and talk with him.
I hope Pearl knows what she's doing, letting you wander around Nellis as you please.
Now, Raquel told us that Loyal might have something for us that can help us get rid of the ants. Loyal, can you tell us about it?
I started building a sonic emitter that might do the trick, but it's useless without knowing the exact frequency that would kill the ants.
We can do the quest without the sonic emitter, which will garner less experience and less fame, or we can pass a 50 science or 50 speech check to convince him to give it to us anyway. Here I chose to pass the science check, telling him how to properly calibrate the sonic emitter.
Hot damn, you're right! It's a matter of boosting across those thresholds, not exact amplitude. You're smarter than you look. Just so happens I was testing it at 24,000 hertz, so it should be good to go. Place it near their nest and cross your fingers. Signal's too high for people to hear, so no harm done. But it might make you feel sick to your stomach.
Now that we have the sonic emitter, we can ask him if there's anything else we can do.
If that's so, how about you look into repairing the solar arrays on the roof of the generator building? Nothing too complicated about it, but it's a long ways to walk my old bones, and there's been that ant problem over near there. You can't miss the array. It's on top of the generator building smack dab in the middle of Nellis between the two runways.
Solar arrays. Now remember when I did my video on Helios 1, we found some of those broken solar panels littering the solar array there. Maybe we can salvage those to fix the broken ones here at Nellis. We can tell him all about Helios 1.
Are you talking about that damn bright light we've seen blast off to the south occasionally? I was wondering what the hell that was. If they've got the parts, bring them on back. We need to get the array back up and charging.
With another quest added to our log, we can then talk to Jack, who likes to follow Loyal around.
So you're the outsider. Lived your whole life out there, huh? Wow. I always thought you savages probably spoke a different language. But I hear you sound like us. Me? I work with Loyal. Mostly electronics work and robotics. Keeping the old technologies alive, right? Loyal's a great man, but he's getting on in years. So a younger's gotta learn everything he knows. That'd be me. The man knows how to fix and build just about everything that was ever made. It's not easy keeping up with him. If you help him recover the lady, I figure it's been a nice day. Yeah, a real nice day.
Recover the lady? What's he talking about here?
Did I say that? Sometimes I just say stupid things. Sorry about that. Pearl will tell you when the time comes. I should really be going.
Well, it looks like we need to increase our fame to learn more about the lady. That's all right. Let's get to work. First, we'll go to Helios 1. Just as we remember, as we wander around the solar array, we find a bunch of broken panels. With a repair of 20 or higher, we can salvage the parts on these panels to repair the panels at the Nellis Air Force Base. Now that we have the panels and the sonic emitter from Loyal, we can go back to the Nellis Air Force Base and head east. This brings us to the generator room, which remember is infested with ants. Inside, we kill a few ants and discover the corpses of 2 boomers. Here we can walk away with a missile launcher, some missiles, and a boomer uniform, in case you want to add to your collection of unique clothing. Passing through a door, we can kill some ants skittering around on this catwalk, and then taking the steps down to the ground floor, we can explore around until we find the generators. All over the floor, we find ant egg clutches, and against the eastern wall, we find a body on the floor. Next to this body is Thump Thump, a unique grenade rifle. Now, in the middle of the eastern wall, we find 2 electrical switches. We need to flip both of these before we finally flip the circuit breaker to reactivate the generators. But there's no good reactivating the generators while the ants are still here. First, we need to clear them out. On the northern side, we find a huge stack of munitions, lots of grenades, and a bunch of ammo boxes filled with ammunition. A great place to stock up. On the southern side of this generator room, we find a very large mound. This is the primary ant mound, which leads to the colony. Here we can place the sonic emitter. This should drive the ants crazy, but the pitch is so high that human ears can't pick it up. Once placed, we need to activate the emitter. Finally, against the northern wall, near the catwalks, we find the main generator power switch. We can flip this to reactivate the generators. Now to the array. Opening a sliding door on the northern wall, we find an access tunnel where we can kill more ants and then go through a sliding door to reach the array. Going through a gate, we can climb some steps on top of the array and find the broken panels. There are 6 total. We can try to repair these, but we need a repair of 65 or greater. If we have it, then we have no need to go to Helios 1. Otherwise, we can repair it with the array parts that we salvaged from Helios 1. Once done, we can head back to Loyal to tell him of our success.
An impressive piece of work. I'll keep that in mind if jobs come up in the future.
This brings us up to liked. Now that we're liked, we can talk with nearby Jake to see if maybe he has a job for us too.
What I could use is some scrap metal. It may not sound exciting, but around here we have to recycle every rivet and plate. The other thing, you being from the outside and all, well, I guess you'd call it a personal matter, but, well, forget it.
Sounds like the poor fellow's in love. If we play a female courier, we can boost the man's self-esteem using the Black Widow perk to flirt with him, calling him a handsome guy.
You think I'm handsome? Wow. I wonder if she does too. There's an outpost near here. The signs say, Crimson Caravan. It seems like they carry things to and fro for people out there. Well, every once in a while I watch the outpost through one of the spotter's binoculars. And sometimes there's this girl there. This special girl. And sometimes it's like she's watching me back with her binoculars. Except she's probably just watching Nellis. I haven't tried waving. Oh, you can't miss her. She has short red hair and she's the most beautiful woman who ever lived. You'd really talk to her for me? What if she feels the same way? What if she comes here like you did? What if she gets blown up? What if she doesn't like me? Oh, geez. I better just let you handle it. I'm better with machines. They don't make my stomach queasy like this. That would be amazing. As in, I would thank you forever.
All right, we can help him with this personal matter, but earlier he said something about scrap metal.
Cool. How much can you spare?
We can then give him the metal we have on our inventory. Each time we do, we gain more boomer fame. If you don't want to go through any of these quests and you just want to get to Idolized as soon as possible, bring a stack of 60 or so scrap metal with you to the Nellis Air Force Base and just give it all to Jack. That should shoot you right up there. We also need to tell Raquel that we've killed all the ants. We find her guarding the Nellis Air Force Base with her minigun, standing on top of an elevated platform.
Maybe Pearl is right about you, because I don't know how you pulled that off. I'll tell Loyal to send someone down to clear out the eggs and repair the generators. Good work.
We can then ask her if she has any more work for us.
The next time you leave Nellis, keep an eye out for missiles. We're down to a 5-year supply for our launchers. Come find me when you've got some to turn in.
Then, much like with the scrap metal quest for Jack, we can give Raquel any missiles we have in our inventory. Each time we give her a missile, we gain more boomer fame. But of course, missiles are expensive and much harder to come by. I'd probably choose the scrap method before this one. Now, as we've been exploring the Nellis Air Force Base, we've seen these children walking around. These are called mini boomers. After school, they like to run around and play on the eastern side of the base. Now, if we have low charisma, they don't say much if we talk to them.
Okay. See ya.
If for some reason you don't see them running around outside, you can always find them inside the schoolhouse, where they tend to congregate by the door. One of the children named Lindsay will give us a quest to find her lost teddy bear.
Hey there, lady. Can you help me find Mr. Cuddles? Mr. Cuddles is my teddy. I lost him, and I don't remember where. Thanks. Let me know when you find him.
Each of these children has unique dialogue, but unless we have 7 or greater charisma, we don't have any options to say anything interesting with them. Talking with one of the children, Red Brick Rick,
Put up your dukes. I'm the Red Brick Kid.
gives us the option to give this kid drugs.
Red Brick never touches Kim's. That stuff will tear you up.
But if you do, you gain infamy.
Hey, do you have any toys outside of here? I sure could use something fun.
Yeah, this kid asks for a toy, but we don't have any options to give him anything. Now, you can farm some fame from each of these mini boomers, but we have to have high enough charisma and the right inventory items. First, let's find the teddy bear. The teddy bear is in the main hangar where we find Jake and Loyal. There's a big stack of shipping containers, and we find the bear sitting on the ground, stuck between them. Next, we need to get some toys, so heading back to the Repcon building, we can go into the gift shop and loot all of those toy souvenir rockets. Now, my charisma was really low. I think it was only a 5, so I had to use everything at my disposal to get it up to 7 so that I can talk with these kids. Strangely enough, the only outfit item I had that improved charisma was sexy sleepwear. And I had to get drunk on beer to raise my charisma. So this drunk lady in a sexy nightie is walking into a schoolroom to chat up some kids to give them free toys, which will, and here's the kicker, make the adult boomers think better of her. Yeah, a little bit creepy. I wonder if that was something that Obsidian thought about when they were making this quest. But now that our charisma is high enough, talking to each of these children gives us 2 options. And I think this is a little bit of a bug. The first option is to pass a charisma speech check where you just play with the kid. You humor the child in the game that child is playing. The other is to offer the toy rocket that you got from the Repcon gift shop. The reason I think this is an oversight is because I think the way it should work is if you have the rocket in your inventory, that should bypass the high charisma check. I don't understand why you would have to have a high charisma check for both options. Because obviously the choice that is the most profitable for you is the choice where you don't give the toy. You still get the fame boost, and you can sell the toy rocket for caps. Anyway, I didn't want these toy rockets, so I went to each of these kids, and I used my charisma check to give them a toy rocket.
La Fantoma needs no rocket. But this one is pretty awesome.
We can then go back to Lindsay and tell her that we found her teddy bear.
Hi again. Have you found Mr. Cuddles? Oh, thank you so much. I'll never lose you again, Mr. Cuddles.
Now to help Jack with his personal issue. He saw a red-haired woman at the Crimson Caravan Company. Heading there, we find a red-haired lady walking around in the Brahmin pen.
You should go talk to Blake or Alice. They handle most of our contact with visitors.
We can ask her if she ever spies on the boomers from this location.
I watch all sorts of things with my binoculars. Who wants to know? And why?
And then we can tell her about Jake's crush.
Nice-looking blonde boy? I always wondered if he was watching me back. What's he like?
Now we can say that he's naive, which he is. I mean, he's young. Or we can use the Black Widow perk to make her a little bit jealous and say that we were flirting with him.
Well, you don't have to do that anymore. Sounds like I better hurry to him. Any chance the boomers would let me visit Nellis?
Oh, Obsidian. If only it was this easy to woo a woman. Can you imagine? Oh, another woman was flirting with him? Guess I'd better hurry on over to him. All right. I'll suspend my disbelief for now. Now we have an option here. Passing a 55 speech check, we can lie and tell her that she already has permission, that the boomers know she's coming. But of course, if we choose this option, the inevitable happens. Since the boomers don't know she's coming, they shell her to death. So instead, we'll go get that permission for her by going directly to Pearl.
This is so exciting. Let me know how it turns out.
Back in Pearl's barracks,
You have done well to earn the trust of my people, child.
we can tell him that Jack's in love with a girl.
Well, this is welcome news. Who is she?
But when she finds out that this girl is not from Nellis Air Force Base, she is less than pleased.
She's with those traitors? They've tried to contact us before, but I'm not interested in trading with greedy savages. This presents a bit of a problem. Jack isn't allowed to leave Nellis, and I doubt she would make it through the artillery alive.
Passing a speech check of 50, we can convince her that it would mean so much to Jack.
I suppose Jack deserves a chance at love. You can tell Jack she has a free pass to enter, but he is responsible for her actions. Do not make me regret this decision, outsider.
Now that we have the permission we need, we can head back to Jack to let him know the good news.
Have you seen her? The redhead of my dreams?
And to tell him that she feels exactly the same way.
She does? You mean it? That's incredible. What happens next? Can she come here? How do we make sure she doesn't get blown up? Should I talk to the gunners or to Pearl?
We can then let him know that we got permission from Pearl, but she still needs a way past the artillery. A sign or something to let them know not to fire upon her.
Here, take this boomer outfit. I'll let the gunners know she's coming, and not to shoot at her.
With the boomer outfit in hand, we can go back to the girl at the Crimson Caravan Company and deliver it to her.
There's one more thing. I have a work contract with the Crimson Caravan, and if I walk away, I lose the wages they owe me. Could you do just one more thing for me and talk to Alice McLafferty about it? I know if I do it, she'll just say no. I'd hate to lose the money.
Okay, let's talk to Alice.
Welcome to the Crimson Caravan Company New Vegas branch. What may I do for you?
Let's see if we can find a way to get Alice to release Janet from her contract.
Ah, yes. Her infatuation with a boomer she's never met. It's a small camp. Word gets around. She's aware she's breaking her contract, which is undoubtedly why she sent you to talk to me instead of coming herself. Janet is free to leave, but she forfeits the wages she's owed. That's the price of contract breaking. Take it or leave it.
If we take it, Janet doesn't get her wages, and of course she's going to be a bit bummed. So instead we can pass either a speech or barter check to convince Alice to give the money. My favorite is the barter check because it argues that she's going to make more money in the long run by working with the boomers once she has a positive relationship with them, which she can get through Janet's relationship with Jack.
Intriguing. Janet puts in a good word for me, and the Crimson Caravan gains exclusive access to the boomers. Yes, it works for me. Janet will be paid what she's owed. Consider it a gift.
Back outside to Janet, we can give her the good news.
That's great. I can't believe you went through all this trouble for me. Thank you.
She immediately puts on the boomer costume and heads out the door. Back at the hangar inside the Nellis Air Force Base, we see Jack and Janet meet in person for the very first time.
Hello. It's great to finally meet you.
Hi there. It's great to meet you as well.
I'm glad you made it out here. You're even more stunning up close than you were at a distance.
And you're even more handsome up close. Do you think it'll be okay if I hang around here for a little while, so we can get to know each other better?
Of course it would. I'll have you set up with some quarters with some of the other women.
Ah, young love. Talking with Jack again, he is so happy.
Thank you for getting Janet to Nellis. I've never been so happy in my entire life.
And with that, we can go back to Pearl and tell her that we've helped out everyone in the entire place.
You have done well to earn the trust of my people, child. I believe the time has come for you to show your value in full. The people have come to accept having you around. Find Loyal and ask him about our people's fondest dream. He will tell you what to do next.
Pearl sent word saying it's all right to tell you about the lady in the water.
Ah, at last we can hear about the lady in the water.
A long time ago, long before the war that killed just about everything that ever lived, a bomber crashed not far from here. A bomber was a flying contraption that could drop explosives down on anything it flew over. But anyway, moving on. This bomber crashed down in Lake Mead, pretty damn near intact. When we got to Nellis, see, I found this article in a magazine all about it. There was another B-29 around here, part of a museum. Couldn't fly, but had a lot of spare parts, see? Get where I'm going? Since I was a young man, I've dreamed of raising that lady from the lake and bringing her back to life.
So the lady was none other than the bomber that Pete told us about during the history lesson. How do they plan to raise the bomber?
Simple. Attach deployable ballast to the plane and float it on up. Here is a remote detonator. Once the ballast is attached to the plane, just hit the detonator from the shore and let buoyancy handle the rest.
It sounds simple. Why are they waiting until now to get this done?
Maybe you don't understand. Hasn't been one of us, not a one, to set a foot outside Nellis in over 50 years. You come along with your knowledge of the outside, and it seems the time's come to raise the lady after all. Here's the deployable ballast. Go find the plane, attach the ballast, and hit the button.
We can then ask him how we're going to get to the bottom of a lake without drowning.
Might try holding your breath. If that doesn't sound good enough, talk to Jack. He was working on a rebreather once.
Jack is still a bit drunk with love.
I've never been so happy in my entire life.
But we can ask him about the rebreather that Loyal talked about.
I just need some parts from a pressure cooker to create a hermetic seal for the rebreather.
Okay, we could go and get those for him, or passing a science check of 45 or higher, we can convince him to get it to work using corn silk, rubber hose, and a removable adhesive.
That's a brilliant idea. I can put that together right now. Here you go, a new rebreather.
The rebreather appears in the apparel section of our inventory. It's grayed out, but we can still click on it, and all it does is grant us the effect of water breathing. Looks pretty good, looks kind of like a gas mask or a bandana. Now, this is really important to get for a number of reasons. It's the only way you can get the rebreather. You can't find it anywhere else in the game, and we need this for a variety of quests. We need this in Vault 3. There are a few rooms that are submerged underwater where we can get loot, and the rebreather is the only way to do so. And we need the rebreather to explore Vault 11, which we will explore in a future video. Now that we have the rebreather, we can head on over to Calville Bay. Calville Bay is right on Lake Mead, and it has a boat launch next to a harpoon gun, giving us easy access to Lake Mead. With the rebreather equipped, we can dive into the water and swim southeast towards the compass marker. At length, we discover the crashed B-29. Under the wings, we see two glowing sections. We need to attach the ballasts that we have in our inventory at these spots. Activating them removes the ballast from our inventory and attaches it to the underside of the wing. Then remember, Loyal gave us the ballast detonator, which we have in our inventory, and we need to make sure that we stand within range of the ballast before activating it. I found a good place to stand is right next to this harpoon gun at the boat launch. Equipping Loyal's ballast detonator, we just pull the trigger. And boom! The beautiful B-29 bomber floats to the surface of Lake Mead. It's mostly intact, but it looks like it does need a little bit of repair. Check out the propellers, they are bent all the way back. But I'm sure Loyal can work with this. Back at the Nellis Air Force Base, we can tell Loyal the good news.
That's tremendous. I'll transmit instructions to the robots to start packing up the plane to bring it back to Nellis.
How's he gonna get the thing over here?
The robots are going to handle it. They'll break the plane down into pieces and move it up from Calville Bay in one shot.
We can learn more about how the boomers are going to salvage this ship without attracting attention from, the NCR, by passing a 7 intelligence check, where we can mention that using a diversionary tactic might draw their attention.
Exactly. We'll be shelling an unoccupied location in outer Vegas to get their attention elsewhere. By the time they realize they aren't under attack, the plane and the bots will be long gone. The kids wish we were shelling a real target, but Pearl thinks it's wise not to start up a war just as the lady has risen.
With that, we've finished every quest here at the Nellis Air Force Base and have become idolized with the boomers. We can then go back to Pearl.
What you have done for us is a miracle, child. You have fulfilled the only dreams we ever had outside our walls. You are a trusted friend of us all. If there is ever a way for us to help you, child, tell me, and I will make it so.
Now it's here where we would use the opportunity to ask Pearl to forge an alliance with the NCR. Now that we are idolized, our word means a lot to them, and if we recommend the allegiance, they're likely to accept. However, we only get the quest to ally them with the NCR later in the game after we've completed some of the steps in the major plot line. I've been neglecting the major plot in the game. I've been focusing on the side stories, so I don't have this option yet. But now that I'm idolized with the boomers, I can always come back when ready to ask the boomers to ally with the NCR. As a reward, we also get a boomer outfit and helmet, which look pretty nice. So, we've got the key to the armory in Vault 34. We're idolized with the boomers, which is going to come in handy later. All we have left to do is find that missing Brotherhood of Steel recon patrol. Now that we are idolized, we can freely explore the land just south of the Nellis Air Force Base without fear of being shelled by their howitzers. We can use the opportunity to explore the ruined shacks and houses, which the boomers have been shelling for decades. Now, because the boomers are constantly shelling this area, the Brotherhood of Steel patrol is likely dead, and their corpses could be completely dismembered. I lucked out. I managed to find one of the soldiers, and her body was more or less intact. Some of her limbs were scattered around, but I could still loot her corpse. And on her corpse, we find the Brotherhood of Steel mission holotape. I'm not going to read it here. We'll save this from my video on the Hidden Valley Bunker. And finally, we can walk south out of the Nellis Air Force Base to rub the fact that we're still alive in the face of good old Smokin' George.
Jumping Jesus on a pogo stick. You're the first one to make it through alive, let alone manage a return trip.
Of course, we have to remind George that he wagered us double the money.
Yep. Here are your caps.
Now, we have the opportunity to threaten him to get 700 caps out of him, but in my opinion, 100 extra caps isn't worth the loss of karma.
Sorry about that. Poor memory. Here you go.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the full story of the Boomers in Fallout New Vegas. A fun and interesting xenophobic group of former vault dwellers obsessed with explosions, firepower, and flight. If you successfully raise the lady in the water and give it to the Boomers, at the end of the game, you see the bomber flying in the final battle. But on whose side depends upon the choices you make in the game. What are your thoughts on the Boomers and Nellis Air Force Base? Did you convince them to ally with the NCR, or do you prefer to see them as an independent faction? Let me know in the comments section below. I read all of your comments, and I use your comments as inspiration for my future videos. I've got a t-shirt shop, ladies and gentlemen, where I sell Fallout and Oxhorn themed t-shirts. If you're interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers get access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.